And 3, 2, 1. Hello, and welcome to another episode of A Humanistic Perspective. As always, I am Chad Castilla, and today I'm joined with...
Chris Gatos.
Yes, sir. And
Yes, sir.
today we have a very special guest with us, the wonderful TJ. TJ, do you want to introduce yourself for people?
Tj Ostreko from Sandwich, Illinois.
Hell yes. Thank you for joining us. And TJ and I, we first got connected actually through James. And James went,
James is here
if
too.
there's anyone you have to meet,
In the background.
an interesting person, I think you would give a good introduction into this episode with TJ. So maybe can you give us like just a brief background from your perspective?
Oh, on TJ?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, me and TJ met in welding class in high school, and we were like the two quiet kids. And I was like, "Hey, you're good at this, and you're like, we're like the two outcasts." So we just kind of like became friends after that. It was like me, you, Dalton Smith,
Yeah.
and like literally sitting there filing away at this aluminum project, and me and him sat there literally for like 2.5 hours just shooting the breeze, and then we just kind of became friends after that. And
That's amazing.
Yeah. Just bullshitting and then meeting up a little bit here and there.
Sure.
well,
Decided that we...
the trip to Jacksonville. That was really like really.
Yeah. Yeah, we took a trip to Jacksonville for Jacksonville, Illinois.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
I was
right.
like, oh, Florida.
Yeah, no. For a truck show, because I had a old 92 Dodge diesel, so I brought that down. Of course, it was real hot that day, and my windows decided not to work. So we were sweating balls the
Did
whole
you have
way.
AC?
No AC,
So
yeah.
there we are. So there we are driving all the way down to Jacksonville. Oh boy, there's a mic in my face. Driving all the way down there, and we've got just like, what is that thing? Like 8 inches by 10 inches, the sliding back window in that truck.
Yeah.
That's it.
And the
then
smoker vents,
Oh,
too.
and the smoker vents. So we're both sitting there like,
Dying.
we'd get to a stoplight, be like, crack the door open for a little bit, like, oh, that's the stuff.
I think
man.
the best part was when I got home from that trip, I fixed the one wire that was messed up in my door jamb.
It
And
was
they
just
worked
one wire
perfectly
stopping
after.
all of that.
Wow.
Literally in the driveway. Like, we just got back. He's like, oh, I suppose I should see if I should fix the windows. Pulls the door panel up. Yep, there it is.
Fixed it like
No
in
way.
5 minutes. I was
Yeah.
like, well, I probably should have done that earlier, but
Like,
How
was
far is
alright.
Jacksonville?
it's like 3 hours.
Oh, jeez.
Cool.
Yeah. You're
Damn.
just going like 85 down the road. So
Yikes,
try to get
yeah.
as much air through the vents as you can.
Oh,
The
no.
tiny ports.
It was screaming though, that poor truck. It was leaking all kinds of stuff after we got back.
So I like to start and go back to the beginning of TJ.
Yep.
How does it start? Where is it?
Now, how early should we start though?
Where were
That's
you
the
born?
question. Where was I born? Okay, well,
Are you from Illinois? Like, were you born in
born and
Illinois?
raised in Illinois.
Okay, very nice.
Like we talked about earlier, I grew up in Plano, and then we moved to Sandwich, and we've been there ever since. But yeah, so good old Sandwich, Illinois.
What
I
was
guess
your
we can.
experience in high school like? Like, were you popular kid? Were you like, all right, I'm a worker. I like just working and then just coming to school doing the classes. What was your your
Well,
thing?
in high school, I was kind of like keeping to myself. I didn't have a ton of friends,
Sure.
but it was fine that way.
And you
I
were
was on the
doing AVIC
fishing
too?
team
Oh,
for
fishing
all
team.
4
Ooh.
years. Yeah, Sandwich had a fishing team. Actually
Really?
went to state twice.
What's the biggest catch you had?
The problem is the biggest fish I've ever caught, I didn't have a scale to weigh it, so I couldn't exactly tell you.
Okay.
But surprisingly, only like 6 pounds,
Okay.
which isn't like extreme
What
because some of
is-
these guys.
Is it about
Catch it like 8
speed, or
pounds.
is it about how many you can catch, or what is? the
Now for the
competition?
fishing team, during practice, we'd have like scores between all the members.
Okay.
So that was just like, any fish counts.
Cool.
And it was length. That's how they counted that.
Got it.
But when you get to a tournament, it's 5 fish is the limit.
Okay.
Biggest of 5 has to be over 12. No, over 14 inches, I think. And it doesn't matter what it weighs as long as, it's your 5 biggest bass. And, you keep them in your live well on the boat. And then you bring them at the end of the day, which is typically like 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You start at like 6. So it's a decently long day on the water. But, and then they will do the weigh-in. And, whoever has the most weight wins. And then they do like, prizes and stuff. And but for state, it was actually pretty cool because it was 66 boats. And this is teams, all high school teams, all across the state. And this was at Carlisle Lake. I think that's literally just Carlisle, Illinois.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fact check.
Yep, fact check.
Yeah, fact check me,
James
please.
is checking it right now.
But
in charge here, hang on.
yeah, that lake is actually pretty interesting because it's only like it's a real shallow lake, but it's one of the biggest lakes in Illinois. So when it's windy, there's like 6 to 8 foot rollers out there.
So you could surf it.
Yes, that is the Carlisle Lake.
Carlisle is about a 4-hour and 15-minute cruise from Yorkville.
So
southwest.
If
right by St. Louis.
If the wind is pretty much blowing any direction, it's blowing huge waves. So when you're in a shallow little bass boat and you're trying to get across the lake, you're skipping like the whole boat is out of
Like
the
a
water.
little pebble.
Yeah, it is awful. And never slow down because if you come off plane, you're going to get the wave coming over the bow of the boat. So, so it was a fun time. I enjoyed the fishing team, but
So
somewhere
this
in
is
like...
when you first picked up a welding torch as well, right? And started welding?
Well, the deal with that, initially it was like around freshman year or something. I, thought in the back of my mind, it'd be kind of cool to get into welding. And I've always been kind of fascinated about it. So when I turned 16, so this was summer of... it's been a minute. It's probably summer of 2014, 2015 maybe. I started work, my first job. My dad actually got me the job at Vermeer Midwest. It's in North Aurora.
Okay.
And I was kind of the shop bitch.
Yeah.
So...
Just getting tools.
no, it wasn't like that. It was more like cleaning.
Take out the trash.
Yeah.
Taking out the trash. So this is like a big mechanic shop.
Okay.
And my dad had been working there for about 20 years at the time. So I didn't even have to do an interview or anything. He's like, he came home one day and he's just like, all right, you're coming with me to work. And I'm like, what? So, I started working there. That was my first job. And I actually, the majority of the time when I was doing that job, I was actually washing the equipment. So I had a wash bay. So you're cleaning off grease, dirt, mud, whatever, what have you, all day long. I was soaked all the time. It was real fun in the wintertime, too, because my pants would be wet, and I'd go outside when it's like negative whatever. It would instantly freeze.
Jeez.
But,
This was a paid position, right?
Yeah, and honestly, for a first job, I actually got paid pretty good. I was real surprised what they paid me. They paid me $11.50.
Wow.
As a
wow.
16-year-old.
Wash boy.
Yeah, so
Wow.
that was like, whoa,
Yeah, that's big.
money. But that money I made that summer is what got me to buy that truck that we took to Jacksonville. So
So was
that was
that
my
like the
first
dream
money pit.
truck? Was that...
honestly, yeah. I wanted something
Is
in a
this
little.
still around or no?
I have no idea.
What does that
No
mean?
idea.
I owned it for a year, and I sold it. Then that kid sold it. Then that kid sold it.
Yeah, you lost
Ended
track
up
of the
somewhere in northern or like somewhere in Wisconsin. I think it's probably in a junkyard in a million pieces, but that thing was a pile. But that was my first
Rest
truck.
in peace.
Yeah,
Yeah.
R.I.P.
It was your pile, though, and it was a fun pile.
Yeah,
Like,
I made it
we-
look good.
Well, yeah, we built that roll pan for it.
Yeah,
That was fun. That was a really fun project.
yeah. Too bad the kid that bought it off me ruined it like right away.
Oh.
Yeah, he backed into something or somebody hit. No, somebody hit him. So it wasn't really his fault, but it was all like bent.
Yeah, because that thing was just this. It was heavy duty.
No, not really.
It's a roll pan. It's not supposed to be heavy.
I cut the bumper off. I cut the bumper brackets off the original stock bumper, and used those brackets to weld onto that pan. And the pan was only like 1/8 inch, so it wasn't that heavy duty. And then I put little like shackles on it. It looked pretty cool, but you know, that was the roll pan, I guess. It's better than a real thin piece of sheet metal, I guess. But yeah, no, that truck's long gone. It's probably dead, and probably for the best. But but yeah, so what I was getting at with Vermeer, so I'd have like 15-minute breaks or whatever, and my dad is the one that actually started teaching me how to weld.
Okay.
So I actually learned on a big MIG welder, dual shield 052 for people who actually know
What is
a little bit about
explain
welding.
that a little bit for me.
So 052 is the size wire, and when I'm saying dual shield, it's wire and flux.
Okay.
It's flux core. So it's, you know, when you look at the wire, it just looks like regular wire, but inside that wire is flux. So when you weld it, the flux creates a shield over the weld, and that you can chip off. And because it's dual shield, it actually uses shielding gas as well. So that's just like a real, you can weld that really, really hot. So for Vermeer, they did that a lot because it was big, heavy, thick steel all the time. So that was like just what they used. So 052, one of the first things I did was welding uphill with that, which is one of the hardest things to do.
And you started there.
That's where I started, yeah. So
Was that just the assignment you got put on, or were you like, I want to start with the hardest thing
this
first?
was just like for fun. This was just welding on scrap steel. So I did that when I could at Vermeer, and then once the fall semester came around for senior year, I finally was able to take IVIC welding, and that's where I met this guy. And we had Mr. Hipple, which is one of the best teachers ever. He talked about him on
He said that as well.
episode
what
34.
What makes him so fantastic in your eyes?
He's just like, he's a real down-to-earth guy, really cool. He knows a lot about a lot. And just his teaching style was really good.
He was just a humble dude.
Yeah.
You know, there was nothing, you know, I talked about it where, you know, he would, you know, you can't teach welding off of a piece of paper. You have to teach it from, you know, just by doing it. And that was always something that I remember him always beating into us was, you know, just keep going. You know, all right, yeah, you messed up, grind it out, go over the top of it, keep going. But he was never, man, I don't think the man, I mean, I'm sure everybody can be a dick, but I mean, so much as even raise his voice unless he was just excited about something. I mean, every time, I mean, I ever talked to him, he was just real calm, collected, you know, not a care in the world. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
you know.
real down to earth
How hard
guy.
would it be for us to get him on?
I haven't talked to him in years, so.
Does he live in the area?
Yeah, he lives in Waterman. That's still, I know where he lives.
Okay.
Yeah, he.
Wait, didn't we passed his place?
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a
passed his
little.
place.
He has a little camshaft
Yeah.
for his mailbox.
Yeah, he's got
on 23.
a private business. He restores, like, rebuilds Model A's. It's called Twisted Road Customs.
Yeah, that's right.
And so that's eventually what led him to not teaching at IVIC anymore.
Yeah,
So
because
he
was farming, doing his own business with Twisted Road Customs, and teaching. So he would come in, like he had to do whatever in his fields the night before.
He was
And,
literally hustling.
Yeah, and he would come in and he would be so dead, like so tired in the morning because we had morning class.
Yeah.
And he would just be like trying to like drink his coffee to wake up, and he's just like, ugh. But yeah, he's a really cool guy, and yeah, that I'd love to see him again to like show more how far I've come for sure.
Skill wise.
Yeah.
So where did you go next? So you take this welding class, and are you like, all right, I know for a fact this is the path I'm doing now, and it's
Well,
set?
there was a lot with the path that I took after high school had a lot to do with IVIC. So because of how well I did in the class, I actually ended up getting Student of the Year. And we also did a tournament against Fox Valley Vocational Center, and we destroyed them.
Yeah, we did.
Destroyed
How
them.
do you destroy in a welding competition? That's
Well,
sick.
They cheated. Like
No,
straight up.
what?
No, they didn't cheat.
Well, not the first year. The second year they did.
Yeah, that was
What are you
when
guys
I wasn't
competing
there.
about?
Welding.
So yeah,
we-
so
Oh, let's pause for the train. And we're back. Thank you to the train for giving us a nice little healthy break there. We left off with welding and finishing up at IVIC.
Yeah.
So,
So the deal with that, we were talking about the tournament. Okay, so with the tournament, we'd go there, and beforehand we built like a shelf, and it was pretty cool. You know, you'd take your time doing that, finish it. However, I made mine. I did a pretty decent job. Probably do way better now, but so I did that, and they don't judge them until the actual tournament. So we'd bring those while we were in the welding booths. Well, actually, so we had to weld this engine stand. It's like a small engine stand or whatever. That's what we had to weld at the competition.
Well, depending on your process, yeah.
Yeah, so I had to do an engine stand. I forget what the other ones were.
I had to do, it was like a desk, a pen holder, business card holder thing.
Okay.
Which,
Did
no.
you do TIG?
I did TIG, and I had to do.
is it easier to do smaller welds or bigger weld projects?
It kind of depends on,
It
like,
depends on the process. So like for
no, I had to do the paper towel holder, remember? And it was because
I forget what that even looked like.
I have it in my room still, to be honest with you.
Well, you gotta
and
show me
it's
sometime.
still butchered. But I had never TIG welded before. And Mr. Hipple, the day
Yeah.
of the competition, Mr. Hipple comes up to me with a permission slip, goes, "Can you forge your mom's signature and learn how to TIG weld in 2 hours?" And I'm like, "Signature's the easy part." I'm like,
Yeah.
I text my mom, "Forging your signature." "Okay, for what?" "Field trip." "Okay, have fun." And then
Yeah.
and then I had
Field trip, I'm going to be welding.
yeah, and then I had Mr. Hipple and Chad Worley of all people. He's sitting there, and Chad's like, "If you don't know what to do, more filler rod." And I'm like, "Okay,
Okay.
yeah."
Yeah. That's Chad is probably, he was definitely better than me at the time. And the only reason I won that tournament was because he didn't build a shelf. I will say that hands down right now.
Oh yeah,
That was the only reason
complexity
why I
of the
didn't.
project you did.
He just decided not to build a shelf. Don't know why.
yeah.
He would have won.
Oh
But,
yeah.
Just like a completion thing. Like he just didn't complete his task. It wasn't necessarily like a technique.
No, like he just decided not to do one.
Oh.
Literally, he
Like
just
at all?
didn't want to do one. Yeah. So we both competed in the MIG welding section because that was my strong suit. Because that's what I learned first. Whatever. And I finished second to Chad. And because my shelf actually won for that side of the tournament, the points from both of those, and because Chad didn't build a shelf, I won. So I ended up getting like a DeWalt grinder.
Nice.
I got a welding helmet that I actually used for multiple years afterwards.
Good helmet.
It was a pretty good helmet, yeah. It died on me when I was actually in the Union.
No.
So it made it that far. So it made it like probably 3.5 years.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
just a wall hanger now.
Yeah, I have the shield still.
Yeah, because the auto
I need
darkener
a-
just died, right?
Yeah, it like split or something, so it only darkened like half of it or whatever. So it just flash you.
Just close one eye.
So how do those helmets work for someone who doesn't know anything about them?
I really couldn't tell you the technology
There's,
behind it, but I will tell you that
In layman's terms.
there's a little strip on the front, and it notices like it'll notice like sunlight, so it'll darken with sunlight too. But when it notices the weld flash, it goes dark. When you're not welding, it's like wearing a
It's like wearing a really dark pair of sunglasses.
It's,
Yeah.
it's like those headphones you have, but for your eyes.
Exactly. I mean, the way there's basically like it depending on the quality of the shield, there's light sensors in there. Usually, a good one has even 6 of them. So when you have that flash of light, it'll
Register.
exactly
and
it'll
it's
flip.
like an instant.
Yeah,
like it
it's
is
usually
immediate.
measured within like what 1/1000th of a second.
Yeah, it's
or
something
shorter.
something crazy because
let's-
like if it took like a second to activate, your
You'd be
eyes would
blind.
be blind. Yeah, you'd
This
be blind
leads
after a
perfect
while.
into what I was just about to ask. Give me a rundown. What is the list of injuries that can happen in a welding shop?
All of them.
Yeah, well,
Most common.
I
Give
just
me-
had
give me
this
most
discussion
common.
with my
Burns.
friend the other day, and it's like there's a lot of ways you could die in a shop. So, just to name a few, I'd say the most dangerous things in my shop, we have power hammers. So this is like 100-year-old hammer for forging.
Like a powered blacksmithing hammer.
Yeah,
Yes.
It like stomps things. It's like
Yes, like with tons, and I mean literal tons of force. So
Holy cow.
yeah, you stick your hand in there or whatever. It's
Oh,
you're not gonna
there's
have a
no
hand
hand.
anymore.
Yeah, that's one of those tools where you live by the rules of don't put your hands where you wouldn't put your penis.
Yes, that is
Like straight
true.
up.
But you just gotta like feel the machine, and when you're forging stuff, you get something like James.
Such a nice machine you've been.
So you heat up whatever in the forge, and the only thing I've really done is anneal aluminum. So you get aluminum up to like I think it's like 800 degrees. It's annealed, so you can form it real easy. If you overheat it, it'll sometimes just blow into a million pieces.
Have you seen that?
Yeah,
How cool is it?
it's really weird, honestly, because
Explain
it's like
it,
it just
explain
falls
it.
apart. Like something so hard.
Does it look like ash, like when leaves burn off?
No, it's
or-
like a
It almost
bunch
looks
of like pieces.
Yeah, it almost like crumbles like styrofoam.
It's a really hard thing to explain.
Yeah.
Like
That's an interesting
I
phenomenon.
would say it's closest to like shattering ice, but at the same time it also squishes
Almost like
it.
safety glass.
Yeah, it's really weird.
But
So,
like it doesn't shatter. It's
it
like this really
squishes
slow motion.
and it like blows apart. It's so weird.
It's so cool.
It is really cool, yeah, but it is very weird. So that happens when you overheat it. So, but anyways, getting back to dangerous things in the shop. So we actually have a water jet table. So this is like real, like crazy technology for fabricating metal. So
So it's using water to cool, I'm assuming, while it's cutting.
No. no.
What is happening?
So, 50,000 psi water and sand cuts through anything you want, any thickness.
I want to see a video of this.
I'll show you after we're done here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and look up. We have an Omax machine. So Omax is definitely hands down the best water jet table and company in the world, hands down, because they have the best customer service I have ever seen. And that's regardless of water jet stuff. That's everything. Like
Yeah,
they
just
will
brand in
explain
general.
anything to you. And like right away with parts, they'll overnight parts to you or anything like that. There's a lot of people rely on that company for their entire business. There's a lot of just water jetting companies out there.
So what makes that part of the process so lucrative, and why there's so many businesses that are doing it?
There isn't a whole lot of there's a lot of businesses doing water jetting. There's not a whole lot of businesses making water jet tables.
Got it.
So there's like a handful of those. There's probably like cheap ones, you know, whatever. You can get like little tiny ones that you can put in your garage, whatever. We're talking about like a 20 by 8 table. You know, this is how big ours is pretty much. I forget the exact size. Sorry. But a lot of people do water jetting because it's so accurate within like thousandths of an inch. Like that's how accurate you can get it. And it's honestly, it's more operator than anything else. Because you can, you know, saw through something if you want. You know, it'll have a really weird cut edge. But when you really get the machine dialed, it's nuts how accurate you can be. And cutting, like, the tiniest holes, you know. And,
That's so cool.
yeah.
So like, can it cut any shape, or like what are the things that are
doesn't
being
matter,
made
dude.
most out of it?
You can, our table is a 5-axis table, so it has a tilt head. So it'll tilt to 60 degrees. So
Yeah, so you can like cut a bevel on. Like,
yes,
like if you could almost sharpen your own mower blades on it if you wanted
yes,
to.
we can.
Wow.
We've actually done like bucket blade bevels, like for excavator buckets and all that kind of stuff. I've done that a lot, and it's it's funny because those blades are like 1.5 or yeah, it's about 1.5 thick sometimes, and it'll cut it at a 60-degree angle, and it'll be literally perfect and insanely sharp. And it's like nuts because when you're cutting a 60-degree angle to make like a, say, I don't know, like a 3/16 land on the side, so that's how much is left, and then the rest of it is just the bevel. You're cutting through like over 2 inches thick at that angle. So it's nuts.
That is crazy.
And it is so smooth.
What does it sound like? Is it a loud machine? Or?
Honestly, it really isn't that loud. You'd think it would be like super loud. It's not that loud. The other benefit of the table is that you can raise the water level, so it'll actually cut underwater.
Okay.
So it's real quiet when you do that. Really quiet. But so I think it's like, I want to say however many pounds a minute. I want to say it's more, it's probably a pound a minute is how much sand that goes through. Wow. So we've put probably almost 40,000 pounds of sand through the machine already. It's got almost
How many
70 or
pallets do you
700
guys keep on
hours on it.
hand?
What's that?
How many pallets of sand do you keep?
So,
on hand?
funny you should ask. 44,000 pounds of sand is how much we ordered. So that's a truckload of sand.
Yeah. He sent me
So
pictures when it
each
came
pallet
in.
is 2,200 pounds,
Yeah.
and it's only like this tall. It's only like, I don't know, 24 inches tall. But 2,200 pounds, and it goes quick. You know, we have to fill it like every 8 hours.
Do you have to use like a forklift to fill it and stuff, or?
Right now we have a hopper that we just load by hand.
Okay.
We're gonna make a hopper that will take an entire bag of sand
At a time.
So we're gonna change up the way we do it. Right now we just get like 60 to 80 pound bags of sand, so you have to, you know, do like 9 bags of sand every time you fill it up, which gets annoying, you know, whatever. But you can actually order 2,200 pounds of sand in a giant sack, and all you have to do is just throw that sack into a giant hopper, and then you don't have to refill it until that's empty.
It's like paintball, quick reloading.
Yeah. So, or extended mag.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so that's how we do that. But yeah, I could go.
Let's go back to after IVIC, I guess after high school, graduating. What did you do next? Where did you go first?
Ryan Manufacturing.
Yeah. So because of IVIC, and because I did so well, like I said, and I'm not trying to like boast.
No, yeah. It's just what it is.
I got a job opportunity. So from my welding instructor, Mr. Hipple, he offered me a job because they were looking for guys at Ryan Manufacturing. So, you come out of IVIC class thinking you know something, especially because, you do really well in a tournament, you win a tournament, whatever. Get student of the year, whatever, no big deal.
You're feeling yourself. You're like,
Feeling good,
Yeah.
like
Oh, yeah.
I'm ready to do this as a career. And you walk into that shop and you're real nervous, and you get your first project and you're like, man, I really don't know shit. You realize it humbles you quickly.
I bet.
You come out of school, and this is probably for like everybody. I feel like, this is for every kind of
Every
thing you
trade.
learn.
Yeah.
Not just for trades, but for like college in general. You come out of it thinking you know something, and then you get into the real world and you realize that it's way different.
Yeah.
Entirely.
So, I picked it up. It took me I would say 6 months, and I was real settled in there. I was able to do
What
everything.
kind of projects were you
my
working
own.
on there?
So with my Ryan Manufacturing, their main contract was to build dump beds for off-road machines, for like tracked equipment, for Terramac, which is actually out of Elburn, and they're getting bigger, but they sell, I think, mostly up north for pipeline and down in Texas for pipeline as well. It's kind of like a pipeline machine. So it's a real big dump bed. It's like 8 by 12, something like that. It's pretty decent size. Got, side gates on it, tailgate that as you dump, it opens, swings open. Has it has a big I guess you can say, we call it a bulkhead.
Oh, the big cab protector.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. The big duckbill, whatever you want to call it.
Because they put that on there because the guys with the excavators would like to slam into the bulkhead to clear out their buckets, or, they would go to swing and sometimes they'd hit the cab. So they put a real big bulkhead on it. And we'd have to sheet that. We'd do everything in-house. The only thing that we didn't do was build the hinges. Well, we'd weld them on and everything, but we didn't cut them. They were laser cut and machined because they'd have to be a certain size or whatever. So that was the main thing that we did. So I did a lot of side gates. Like, that was the main thing I did for a while because that was pretty easy. That's what really got me in the groove of being able to weld.
Is this like a mechanic
really
where
well.
you need to have your own gear when you show up to the shop, or?
I would say for the most part, for any welding job, they're going to require you to bring your own welding helmet.
Usually helmet, gloves, and if you're really particular about a certain jacket or something.
So, like with some companies, because of liability and stuff,
I forgot about that part.
sometimes they don't allow you to bring in your own like safety gear. So they'll supply you with stuff. So it's better for their insurance or whatever. But yeah, so getting back to what we were doing there, this shop was out in the country in Newark, just south of 52. So it was really out there. It was on a farm.
Yeah, it was on his farm.
Yeah, the
On
owner,
the owner's farm.
the owner's
Yeah.
farm. Yep.
I want to talk about another really nice dude, though.
Oh yeah, super nice dude. He's religious, and he's just like the nicest guy ever.
How big was the shop? How many square feet?
It was a good size
there was
shop.
multiple. there was like a plasma cutting shop and then a painting area in that like building. And then the other shop, it wasn't huge, and the setup, like the space was kind of set up weird. There was some weird walls, half walls, whatever. We made it work.
It
though.
was two barns that were put together because I think
No.
that center part used to have a sliding door. I think that's why there's like
It
the
was a
half.
barn, and then they added on to it.
But yeah. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was a decent size, and
And was this a union job or?
no.
No, it's literally like what it was Ryan and you and then maybe two other guys.
Like
if
three
that.
other guys.
Yeah.
So it's like the perfect entry level position for a welder.
Honestly,
is it?
that was
Did you
probably,
get lucky with that role or?
Honestly, that was probably one of the best places to start at
Yeah.
because there's a lot of different stuff. And, I kind of pride myself on being able to do a lot of different stuff, not just one thing.
Yeah, you're a very versatile welder.
Yeah, it's not just with welding, it's also fabricating. Like it's metal work. I don't consider just like welding and
that's why-
fabricating isn't just welding. It's,
Yeah, that's
got
why the
it.
class is welding and fabrication.
yeah, there's a lot more to metal work than just welding.
Do you prefer the fabrication?
I roll it up
It's-
all into one
yeah,
ball.
it's like the artistic process of doing it you love.
Yeah.
It's kind of an art form in a sense.
Well, do you have any pictures of the roses? I know somewhere I've got a picture of the rose.
Yeah, but I don't have a picture of the rose that we did at Ivic.
Yeah.
I made a bunch more flowers afterwards.
Yeah.
But
Well, getting to that like artsy side of it is what I
yeah.
was shooting for.
well, going way back, I have a little bit of an artistic side, creative side.
there. A lot. Not a little.
So that kind of helps. And, especially if you're into art and stuff and you bring it into the trades, especially into welding, you get really particular about how you do things and your quality of work shows. It shows how,
You could tell when there's
How
a
much
good
you
welder,
care.
and yeah, there's like a welder that cares more.
So, and it has to do a lot with like consistency and, it's all with your hands. It's hard to explain off the top of my head like this.
do with my hands.
But yeah, so it's just another art form,
Yeah.
honestly. Welding is just another art form. Metalwork is just another art form. It's just
So
another
describe
medium.
metalwork to me. Like, what are you doing?
Anything that's not welding.
Sure, but talk about some of those
metalwork.
processes.
Fabricating is not welding. Metalwork is all of the things.
Okay.
So it's like forging, which is, heating something up and pounding the hell out of it till you make a shape. And forging is amazing, and that is the one thing that I need to learn still.
Okay.
That is what I'm missing in my life right now. I've done a little bit of that kind of stuff, but
You're missing another first gen. Don't lie.
what? From my life?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but that we're talking about, metalwork. But I forget what we were talking about now.
We said
I wanted
define metalworking.
Yeah.
Metalwork is anything to do with metal where you take basically nothing and turn it into something. So you're taking like flat stock or flat plate or tubing, square tubing, angle iron, whatever, cutting, welding, all this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
making it into whatever you want. And it's endless.
Do you have a home
Endless.
setup at all?
Home setup? No, I do not, actually.
Do you ever work on projects at the shop for yourself or anything?
Yes, I do. I do a lot.
Well, your razor.
Yeah, so
What'd you do to that?
getting into side by sides.
Yes.
I'm sure we're gonna get into that a little more later.
I want to get into that.
Well,
way
because
more.
you heard in our podcast, I made sure to bring up
You
like
had to bring
us
it up.
going to the clips.
Yeah, so I actually built a custom cage for my
Sick.
razor.
Yeah, did I ever show you pictures of his razor? Because I'm pretty proud
I think
of
you.
him.
I think you did.
Well,
Yeah.
just in case it didn't, here we go. Because I'm pretty proud of these pictures of that
So
razor.
what made you pull the trigger on
He
getting
honestly
a
did
razor?
a real good job for that photo shoot that he did. What were you saying?
What made you pull the trigger for the razor? Like, were you? I want one so bad.
My buddy, a couple years ago, took me to the Cliffs, which is a local off-road park. It's in Marseilles, technically. He's showing you a picture.
That's the cage. It's just a good picture. More
that
of the
one's
cage.
that one's a good picture. That one's a good picture of the cage.
So is this cage sturdier than the original cage?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, by 1,000%.
That's a lot of percents.
If you saw,
That is a lot.
if you saw a factory cage and knew how thin that tubing is and how it's designed, you wouldn't want to sit in that and go hard in one of those machines.
They're taller, aren't they?
Yeah, I made that cage a lot shorter than factory.
Yeah.
And I wanted it as low as possible. It's actually pretty safe. The height is still safe. It's not too low. It's
yeah,
still, you
I've
still
never
got
had my
like
helmet in it.
technically they say you want 3 inches of clearance from your helmet to the cage, and that's pretty much what I have.
Yeah.
So
It's at that right height where you can take your helmet off and stick it on top of the tubes and still grab it while you're belted in, and you're not
Yeah.
sitting there like,
just wait till the roof is on, then you won't be able to do it anymore.
I got a Sawzall.
No.
Man, I
But,
bet tearing up in that thing is fun.
I've literally had it out every weekend since I bought it.
It's
well,
been-
not,
it's been
not
like our-
since I bought it, since I finished the cage. Sorry.
It's been like our Sunday thing,
yeah.
well, except for last week. But
Yeah.
that's different. But
A lot
Yeah,
of
that was
parts.
a
Have
real
you had to
late-
replace
real
any
late
parts?
Sunday. What's that?
Replacing any parts? Have
I
you had
haven't
to do that?
replaced anything on it yet, but I only have like 22 hours on the machine. So
lower control arms are gonna be
yeah,
coming.
they're custom high clearance is what I like to call them. So
Yeah.
when you go over rocks and stuff, they tend to bend.
Yeah, there was a couple of spots where like la da 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 da. Yeah, you're like you stop. We literally stopped.
Slam.
TJ'd be like, "I'm sorry," patted on the. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you always hear me like, oh,
Yeah, you're like she can't talk, so I will. Boom.
So you learned a lot at, it was called Red Wings, or what was it? It was Red.
what?
The first
I wear
shop,
Red
the first
Wings
farm
boot.
shop.
No. Rye Manufacturing.
Ryan Manufacturing. That's it.
Yeah.
So where do you go
Or a
after
pair of Red
Ryan?
Wings there.
Still kicking them.
What are you saying?
Where did you go to?
After?
Next, or what was the path there?
So I spent 2.5 years there. I really expanded my knowledge there. I learned a lot. I got really good at fabricating. Well, fairly good at fabricating. Learned more TIG welding. Learned more MIG welding. Got into more aluminum, more stainless, all that kind of stuff. I got really well rounded. Was able to run all the machines there. We had a press brake, which is like a big 200 something ton pound pressure machine that can bend material, like any kind of sheet metal up to a certain thickness. So we did all that. There was a shear there, a little bit of CNC plasma cutting, all that kind of stuff. So I did a little bit of everything. And after 2.5 years, me and my buddy Josh, we kind of were both like, we should both sign up for the Ironworkers Union. So we both signed up, and I actually didn't get in initially. Josh got in initially because, he had a way in.
Is it a rigorous recruiting process?
So with how you get into 393 specifically, which is the Aurora local for ironworkers in the Chicagoland area, you sign up. Usually there's only like 35 to 40 people that sign up every year. They sign up in March, and you have to take a test, pass the test, then you do an interview, and then based on your score on the test, and they score you in the interview as well. And it's not just like a one-on-one interview. It's like you're
It's
sitting
a
in
board.
you're sitting in front of the entire board for that local. So it's like 6 guys, all intimidating looking. None of them talking besides one of them. You know, and you're just like sitting in a chair in front of all these guys, and you're just like,
That's how my
You know?
interview with the IBEW was. It was like
Yeah.
5 guys from the board. I was the first person for that year to interview. I walk in, I sit down, and they're like, you know, well, you don't seem too nervous. And I'm like, well, you know, I figured I'm the first person, so it's either going to fake it or make it for everybody else. I don't know, you know, it's the worst that happens.
Yeah, set the standard.
Exactly.
yeah.
You know, everybody else is wearing a suit. I show up in blue jeans and a button down, you know. I'm like, ooh. Well, you know, we see how well that worked out for me, but, you know,
Sure.
not about me. Continue.
But okay, so every year after they score everybody, they accept 10 guys or gals. So with those 10 guys, they started in June or July. And of those 10 guys, my friend Josh was in. And usually out of the 10 guys, there's always somebody that either drops out because it's not for them, or they get kicked out because they're just not a good worker or whatever. So I think 3 or 4 guys actually either got kicked out or dropped out. I know one guy for sure got kicked out. And I guess I was number 13 or 14 on the list. So I got the call in August if I was still interested in joining the union, and I was like, sure. So went in and, you know, had to fill out all this stuff, had to do the orientation, and then you got to take OSHA 10 and OSHA 30 and all this stuff, and finally started working in September of 2018
What was your assignment like?
for my first job.
Yeah, with them.
So with the Ironworkers, it's kind of like you're freelancing, sort of. Or a mercenary. You have to go to a hall.
We'll weld for money.
Literally.
welder.
Yeah, literally. So you have to go to the hall, sign a list, and whatever your last date of work is, you write it down on the list, and the oldest date gets picked first. So that's how they do the list. And so my first job, I'm pretty sure, was actually a fence job. So I just had to put up like a sidewalk fence at the metro station in Aurora. It's the one that's right on the river.
I know the one. Yeah.
Mhm. So I did the fence there.
No
It's
kidding.
like right next to the tracks.
Yeah, the fence out back there.
Yep. So I did that. I did one other job with them, maybe. Oh, I had to put up all the ballards there too. So all those yellow ballards I put up as well.
So these are like independent, like it was just you who did that fence?
No. So basically, we were just installing the fence too. We didn't build it; like we just installed the panels. So usually, every time you go out, there's at least one foreman. Well, there is one foreman. Sorry. It could just be you, or it could be a couple guys. Just depends on what the job is. If it's like you're going to erect a building, it's like a minimum of 5 guys. Yeah. So, because you need a foreman, you need 2 guys connecting, and then 2 guys on the ground hooking up. So, but yeah, that was my first job. Now with 393, you do a little bit of everything. So, with the Ironworkers, you could do anything from structural steel to architectural, ornamental stuff like fancy railings or just regular railings, stairs.
What was your favorite of all those?
Honestly,
Laying rebar.
well, yes and no. I honestly, rebar is a huge part of ironworking. Huge. Honestly, the two biggest things of ironworking is structural steel and rebar. That's like the two main things. I did enjoy structural steel a lot because, you know, you're climbing around all the time. You're up high, you know, it's the heights. I used to kind of be afraid of heights, but once I started doing that, it's kind of like an adrenaline rush, you know. It's real fun. You
That
know,
keeps you up in the morning.
yeah.
What was the highest you had to climb to weld?
The highest I've ever been to weld was probably like 40-some feet. There's not a lot of very tall buildings around here. The highest I've been ironworking was actually doing rebar, surprisingly. It was on the 5th story of a Northwestern University building in what I forget what town it is. It's kind of over by Hinsdale.
That's cool.
But
Do you like being in the field more or at a shop more?
definitely in the field. 100% in the field.
Why is
I
that?
hate being in a shop. It sucks. It's just, you know, you're not moving around a lot. When you're out installing stuff, it's a lot faster pace. You know, you're a lot more active. At the end of the day, you feel good.
You
You
feel
know,
accomplished.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
and that was the thing about rebar. You know, it's rewarding. It's hard work, for sure.
You sweat your ass off, I bet.
Sweat your ass off. You're busting your ass. You know, it's hard on your body, hard on your hands. You know, you're
Are the
constantly
machines, do
tearing
they
your hands up.
vibrate or is it like...
no. You know what rebar is? Okay.
I know what rebar is, yes.
Yeah. So when
We
you
don't
say-
do the concrete.
Right.
No, because iron workers lay the steel,
Yeah.
and then cement masons come in and pour,
Yeah.
and then finishers come in and actually trowel it and
Yeah.
make it purdy.
Yeah, and they do all that at once.
Wow.
So we come in, the hole's already dug, whatever, or whatever it may be, footing, whatever. So we lay in our rebar. There's like standees, get it up off the bottom of the hole, so that concrete will be underneath it.
Yeah.
So it actually fully encases the rebar. Sorry. So with rebar, it's a lot of like carrying a lot of steel around all day long, especially when you're the apprentice. You're constantly carrying steel all day long.
What's the light like? What's the weights? The average weights you're carrying?
You can have,
You could have anywhere from like 50 pounds to like 200
Yeah,
plus
well,
on your
then-
shoulder.
you know, you get 2 foot of, or we'll use 5 feet, right? So if you have 5 feet of number 3 bar, and then 5 feet of number 10 bar, number 10 bar takes 2 of us to carry it.
Yeah, so with James over there, he knows a lot about rebar, probably more than I do, surprisingly. But that's mostly because he worked
I've hauled
for...
a lot
He
of it.
handled a lot of it.
Yeah, he had to deal
I
with
hauled
it.
a lot of it.
Yeah, at CCS.
So like
but
rebar, just to why this will make sense, right? My analogy here, the number of rebar is the number over an eighth.
Yep.
So 3/8 would be number 3, 10/8 would be number 10 rebar.
Sure.
So that's
You get up to like number 14s, that's some real thick,
14s.
real heavy. And I have put in number 14s before.
Yeah, I've hauled.
That's like bridge work.
Yeah,
stuff.
I've only hauled maybe half. You know, and half a load is still 10,000, almost 12,000 pounds. But 14/8. You know,
That's some big bar.
Yeah,
it's
it's
like it's
girthy.
literally like this big around.
Holy cow.
yeah, and it is that's why I said it's just such a variance. And then of course if you start talking, all right, grade 60, A706, epoxy.
Epoxy bar.
Each one
Epoxy
of
bar
those.
is coated rebar.
That's
so
what
there's,
you see when
there's
you're driving
black
down the
bar,
interstate.
There's black bar, which is uncoated raw. So that's like the stuff you see. It's all rusty and black, whatever.
that's
you,
what they
you
put in,
touch
like,
it,
home
it's,
foundations.
it's real dirty, whatever.
I
So
know.
that's like the typical rebar. So with epoxy, it's just coated.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like
when
usually green.
when you're driving down the interstate and you see them pouring and you see all the big huge bundles of just green.
That's IDOT
yeah, that's
for you.
Well, yeah, and then that's anything that is a state approved job has to be epoxy rebar.
Yeah, pretty much.
Doesn't matter. Literally, when they're putting in even parking stops, but it's at a state facility, it's epoxy.
What is epoxy? I thought epoxy
So-
was a plastic.
They
Is that-
they
It's
coat
just,
it
they
in.
just call it epoxy.
It's actually
because
powder coat.
Yeah, it's just like real. It's a thick coating
Yeah.
that keeps it from rusting. That's all.
Yeah, so basically, once
Oh,
it gets, they come in, set it in the dirt, and then the masons come and pour over the top of it. Rebar, after we'll say 80 years, is actually pretty realistic. Will actually start to rust because there is water in cement. You cannot get all of it out.
Yeah.
If you dry up cement, it'll just pop and blow up. But so the epoxy is basically just to ensure that it doesn't rust beneath.
Yeah.
So, but the only problem with that is when, well, we ordered 10 foot, but we needed 9'6", then they cut the end off of it and expose the steel anyway. And it
Yeah, they're
doesn't matter.
supposed to like
recoat it.
recoat it, but
Yeah, right
From
on
a
half the
welder's
time they don't.
perspective, is there a lot of work that will need to be done in the city, welding wise, in like 80, 100 years?
there will always be work.
There will always be work in Chicago.
There,
Always.
and honestly, as the years go on, more and more metal is being used. So even in like construction, like regular construction now, they're starting to use more steel stud for everything instead of wood studs.
Yeah.
And that's a lot,
What's
a
the
lot to do with
reasoning?
like fireproofing too.
Yeah.
But it's cheap and, it goes up fast.
Is metal cheaper than lumber right now,
I couldn't
wholesale
tell you.
wise?
I have no
So,
idea. All I
here's
know
the
is-
deal. Here's the deal.
I know we've had
at-
a shit show with wood and lumber.
Here's an example because I know for sure what metal prices are like from last year to this year. For an example, 5x8 sheet of 1/4 inch steel last year, $250. That's cheap. This year, it's almost $700.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Before I left CCS, if you could get a bunk of lumber, it was, it was just asinine. I mean,
I was seeing right now for 2x4s, it's about $9 a pop.
Yeah.
For a 2x4.
Yeah.
yeah.
We had to buy some 2x12s the other day because I had built this like rack system to carry one of the projects I built to the powder coater, and I think 3 lengths, so this is like 12-foot lengths of 2x12, was $130. 3 of them.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. The price of homes has just skyrocketed.
Yep.
They said it's like another 35,000 on top of, like,
Just
if you
for
were
material.
to build 2 homes last year and today, it's like almost another 35 to 40 grand.
It's
on
honestly
top of.
pretty scary because you don't know where this is going to lead.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it's all over.
But
Nobody knows.
At least like for me in my position and my job and what we do,
Are you still with? You're not with the union
I'm
anymore.
not union now. I left.
So you left Aurora. You were there. You were
I
how
was
many
there
years
for about a year and a half, almost
Okay.
2 years. So it was about a year and a half. So the reason I left, I absolutely loved it. I wish I could go back. I wish there was more work. So I left because there just wasn't enough work for me. I made, and I don't like to talk about, how much money you make, especially, publicly. But for an example, a union position where I made $30 an hour plus another $30 in benefits, I only made $26,000 in 1 year. which is literally nothing for what
Right.
I was doing. And I'm not one for signing up for unemployment. So I just, I got a job opportunity to do something more like that I wanted to do. Because in all reality, in my dreams, I kind of wanted to have my own welding shop, doing all different kinds of, fancy stuff.
Still
So
working towards that.
that I, talking to my boss, he kind of somewhat talked me into it, but just how we discussed things and how I kind of saw the business, it kind of felt like I could have been, or I could be a major player in his business. Like
Wow.
I'd pretty much escalated to the lead shop guy immediately. And, in a way, I kind of saw maybe in however many years' time I could invest myself in the business and be a co-owner.
Sure.
But yeah, it was basically like easy street to my dream instead of going through however many years it would have taken to acquire all the equipment. You could just hop on with
That's
this
a
guy.
really
That's
fortunate situation.
Yeah, because it's actually funny because my boss kind of followed the same footsteps that I did. He started welding when he was 16. He actually started because he injured himself. He was just bored. He wanted something to do. So he started welding. And then he got an internship through high school and then started his own business after 7 years of working for that guy. And he's been doing this company, which is MDO, Architectural Metalwork, is what the company name is. He's been doing it for like 10 years now. And he's only 33, I think.
How's your time been there?
This month, in probably like 6 days, it'll be a year since I started there.
Wow.
So
How has that been?
it's been interesting.
Ups and downs, crazy. A lot of
Yeah,
work.
I mean,
You've done
with
a lot
every
of
job.
really cool projects there, just from what you've sent me pictures of.
Yeah, so
What do you got going on?
So, I was at a certain point when I left Ryan Manufacturing for my, skill for metal work. I didn't really hone that skill in the union because you didn't really do a whole lot of welding there. You do like welding shop stuff, and I had to get like stick welding certs. But in any other shop or anything, you're not going to be using stick welding. It's more just for installing and doing stuff outside. If you're welding outside, you're normally going to be stick welding. But, working in a shop, I don't have to do it. So I was at a certain point, and ever since I started with MDO, it's definitely been like I'm always getting better every day. Like I'm always improving, and you never stop learning. Like
No, well, and that's,
you never stop learning, especially in metalwork. It's
there's always
endless.
something you can work on.
And like
always.
I keep saying endless. Literally,
is it ever
metalworking
a
is
puzzle?
endless.
Is it ever like you come into crazy challenges? You're like, how am I going to get around this?
There's always situations where, that's with like any job. You get stuck in a situation where you're like, okay, what do I need to do? And it's just like, you just got to figure it out. And that's another thing too is, I've been doing metal work, not necessarily always welding, not necessarily always fabricating, but doing stuff with metal for 7 years. And that was part of the thing that really I learned in the union was like problem solving and stuff like that. And especially when I was working by myself at Ryan Manufacturing, when I would have my own projects doing stuff on my own, it's a lot of problem solving. Like, okay, how do I need to do this? Or how do I need to make this? How can I take a blueprint and make it reality? And literally all of the years of all of the stuff I've done in my whole life is kind of just combined into this job now.
Wow.
Because I'm doing architectural work. and this is like ultra high quality stuff for people who have really deep pockets.
It's high profile work.
Yeah.
Well,
So
like that pool ladder thing that you did last year.
the pool railing,
Yeah, like that thing.
that was a
Yeah, what was
really
it?
weird shaped pool railing made out of stainless, and it's like
It was freaking gorgeous, is what it was.
I put a
How
lot
many
of work
hours?
into those.
Yeah.
Probably in total, probably 350 hours
Yeah.
amongst not just me
Whoa.
though. That's
Whole
including
team.
a couple other people. I put the most hours into it though. I probably
Yeah.
did.
I mean, it was literally a usable sculpture.
And that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and that's why it was. I know some again.
Yeah, that was the mission.
Yeah.
Yeah. So literally there
No,
was
it was gorgeous.
probably over a football field of welding on each railing.
No
Tig
way.
welding stainless. Yep. And they came out straight without having to make them straight.
Good.
That's just, and that's one of the things you learn. It's just like, okay, this is with stainless, it warps really easily just because
Just
just
the
kind of the
composition of
yeah,
the steel.
it's just the way it is. It just it heats
transfers,
up.
It transfers heat almost like aluminum, to where
It's-
you gotta not work fast, but you can't dump a ton.
You
of
don't
heat into
you don't
it.
put a whole lot of heat into it because it'll warp fast.
Yeah.
So I'm welding over a football field on this thing. So you really got to think about how you weld it. And so basically these railings were put together and they're like 1/8 inch stainless. And they're 2 sheets, the side profiles, and then it's a strip that's all the way around. So it makes it look like it's 2 inches thick. So basically, I had to weld every single seam that had to do with that. And then there was like a thumb recess. So we actually had to roll stainless tube and then slice it in half and then put it in and then weld that in too. And put little end pieces so that it like was real nice transition out. So you can put your fingers and your thumb in there and it's super smooth all the way through. And it's a whole lot of welding. And this is something
Did you guys
that's like,
install as well?
yeah, we installed it, but that was a real simple install.
Okay.
We just had to land on whatever was there already. So we just made it to that. I actually won a
Nice.
silver medal for that.
Did you guys enter it into a competition or something?
Yeah, so every year, NOMA, which is the National Ornamental and Miscellaneous Metal Association, maybe. Look that up real quick for me.
NOMMA?
NOMA, so NOMMA, yeah. So every year, Matt, my boss, enters in projects that we've done over the past year. And we actually won 3 awards this year. We have a total of 11
You guys
now,
are
plus
stacked.
the Mitch Heitler Award, which
It's,
is like the most prestigious award you can get is Mitch
So you're
Heitler
doing
Award.
high level welding work and metal work and
Yeah.
fabrication.
Well, like I said, the only reason I can remember that pool rail or that rail is just because it was so.
It's actually in Sugar Grove.
Is it really?
No kidding.
It was. I just remember him sending me pictures as it went along, and it was like,
What does that cost
Oh.
the client, a project like that?
So we didn't make any money on that, really.
You guys broke even? What, you do
You
for
cannot,
free? What,
like-
what?
So we do this a lot, honestly. We create top jobs for ourselves sometimes. We broke even probably. I don't think we made a ton of money on it because you
Sure.
can only charge so much for some freaking pool rails.
Right.
We have such a drive to make things
It's about the art.
the best that they can be that it doesn't matter how long it takes. We're going to do it, That's kind of like what me and Matt both think in our heads, like
That's how you run the shop.
it doesn't matter how long it takes. It's gonna be done right, And honestly, if we were to do those railings again, we wouldn't. It would have taken us like a day to make them, because we would have just got solid aluminum probably or stainless and cut it out of the water jet, and then just spent whatever remainder of the time sanding and polishing.
And finishing.
Yeah, because that's honestly what took them probably the most time. Welding took definitely a long time because, like I said, it's like at least a football field of welding per rail, and there was 4. And I did most of the welding.
And now, for a project like this, the welds have to be like especially good. Like I'm assuming when you're out in the
Honestly,
field, like
honestly, you don't
sanded
have
them
to
down,
be.
didn't ya?
Honestly, you don't have to be the best welder in the world to do what I do at my shop.
what do you have to be better at?
Most of the time, honestly, it's like finishing, making sure that stuff's fit right in a straight, square, all that kind of stuff. Finishing is a huge part of what, it's the whole reason stuff looks good when it leaves the shop. Stuff could look like crap, and then you could go to finish it, spend however much time, grinding, sanding, polishing, whatever, and then it looks completely different. So, but yeah, like with those pull rails, which is honestly a real good example of that, of what I do, taking, flat sheet stainless, cutting the shapes out, welding them all together. Doesn't matter what the welds look like as long as they have the profile that they need. Sanding everything down so that you don't see any weld at all. It looks completely solid. And then spending all that time DAing, which is like sanding with a thing that goes all different directions. It's like
dual action. So
yes.
you ever seen a KitchenAid mixer?
Yeah.
Basically exactly that, but with a sandpaper pad on the bottom of it, so it makes like an oblong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it doesn't like when you sand something, it doesn't just make a circle.
Yeah.
Which you don't want.
Yeah.
It sands it in all different directions so that it's nice and like even textured.
Sure.
Because if you just did like something that rotated in a circle, you would make grooves all over the place.
Sure.
So NOMA is National Ornamental and Miscellaneous Metals Association.
So I was almost
That's a
dead on.
mouthful.
Right out of good old Texas is where they're based out of.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so that's a whole that's national. So that's the entire country. Plus sometimes guys from overseas, like from France and stuff, because there's some freaking maniacs that are
Really?
overseas with architectural metalwork. Oh yeah, people that have learned stuff from hundreds of years ago that have just been passed along. Like because forging's been around
Forever.
for thousands of years.
Yeah.
So
Wow, that's so cool. What would you say is the biggest thing you've learned from your profession and career? Like the biggest life lesson or
Patience.
takeaway?
well, let me think about it for a sec.
I mean, that's the one thing I learned driving truck was never be in a hurry, and it will drill patience into you, whether you like it or not. And that's just like the one, like if you're looking for like an interpersonal thing I learned. I learned how to drive a truck. I learned that. I learned how to throw tons of steel off the side of it, but interpersonally, definitely taught patience, especially with TIG welding. You got to be very, very patient. That's the one big thing I took away from IVIC was never be in a hurry. In my second year, I had a different instructor. Mr. Hipple bowed out, and I had a different instructor, and
That guy sucked.
yeah.
Oh boy.
My ear, my ear.
Was that through the computer too?
Yes.
Nice.
Oh.
Oh, that was so loud.
My ears are bleeding.
Shout out to Jake Dufresne for giving us a call.
Jake Jonathan.
Oh, it was Jonathan Dufresne.
Yes, it was.
I love that man.
Yeah.
He's something, ain't he? But yeah, no, I just had, just finishing my thought was my second year had a different instructor, and he was the opposite of patient. It was always hurry, 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 hurry. Why isn't that done yet? Why isn't that done yet? Hurry, 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 hurry.
That guy
hurry.
wasn't even a good welder. I don't know why he taught.
I can't. The one thing, I will always give people credit where credit is due. He was amazing with sheet metal. I hate sheet metal. Always have. I hate sheet metal. But
That in and of itself is an art form, like forming sheet metal.
Sitting there with a planishing hammer and an English wheel, and you're sitting there sweating, in a shrink, planishing hammer, a shrinker stretcher, and an English wheel, or a bead roller even, and I mean that's just an art form. But
For sure.
Did you ever come up with something that was like the biggest takeaway you've gotten from the career?
Honestly, there really isn't like. It really just comes down to like ethics. And that's not something you learn in a career. It's something you're taught kind of more as you grow up.
Just through life, yeah.
And I can thank my father for that, for always making sure that, doesn't matter what you're doing, just, do it right.
yeah,
And I'd say with metalwork, he kind of hit it on the head with patience. Take your time, do it right the first time. If you don't do it right the first time, fix it. You can fail, but you can also fix it. That's the beauty of metalwork. It's not like it's woodwork where you have to, measure twice, cut once. Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Wrong length.
Yeah.
Throw it out.
yeah. I
No,
remember
you can
our
literally-
first day, Mr. Hipple telling us that.
Yeah.
He's like, that's the one. He's like, I will build anything out of steel. He goes, you know why? Because if I cut it a half inch short, I can put it back on.
Yeah.
Just sit there and. He's like, you
Yeah.
cut a 2x4 a half inch short. He's like, you either better have some long ass deck nails or another 2x4.
Yeah. And I've honestly been doing a little bit of woodwork lately, and I don't mind it. But that's more of my dad's thing.
Branching outside of your.
Or
Yeah.
the brute force. And
It's more
ignorance
just
quote.
building stuff.
Okay.
Do you remember
Yeah.
that one?
It all started when I was a little kid and I was building with Legos.
You
Your
remember-
tattoo's pretty sick. Let's talk about that. Where'd you get that thing at?
So the deal with this is it's actually a metalworking sleeve.
Sick.
It's cool.
Is it tradition or something that?
No. I mean, it's Greek gods. Hephaestus is on my forearm, and he's the Greek god of metalworking. So he's chilling right there. He's forging a sword. And yeah, he's got the hammer right there.
Have you done any metalworking or forging for weapons of any type?
No.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that we do not do.
Yeah.
Definitely, like, if someone asks us to do it, we're like, no.
Is there certain shops that do just do that?
Zeus is up on my upper arm here. But
Zeus.
And I know Forged in Fire made that really fun for you guys because I'm sure you had everybody and their inbred cousin. You guys make knives?
every time someone hears that we forged anything, it's the first thing they ask. Oh, do you guys make knives? Oh, do you guys watch Forged in Fire? And we're like,
What are some other practical or cool things that come out of forges that you can do that aren't weapons or like tools?
any like really fancy old school
Like wrought iron is a big thing.
railings. Like literally you can make almost any shape with forge. You know, it's your mind is your limit pretty much. So you can think of anything. You can, and my boss will tell you a good exercise is to take a piece of bar stock and smash it and make it into a sphere, then make it into a cube, and then draw it back out and make it into like a tapered, long piece, and then you can make it into anything you can think of, and you could take one chunk and make it into 5 different things. Like, it's nuts what you can do. It's literally just like, once you heat it up, it's like forming with clay. I mean, it's not that easy. Obviously,
Right.
you have to use a power hammer, but the power hammer is like your hand. You just like squish it into whatever you want. And
What are some
stuff's
dream
endless.
projects you've worked on or that you have in your head of things that you're like, I need to make this, or I've thought about making this, and it's outside of just what you're doing for your job?
Stuff I want to make?
Yeah.
I mean, as I get more into architectural stuff,
Forged lower control arms.
no. There's like certain architectural stuff I want to do. I want to, like, now that I'm more into like the NOMA stuff and getting awards and shit, I kind of want to. There's like we're kind of creating a top job again. And when we say creating a top job, it means something that we're going to enter into the NOMA award stuff. So there's this gate that we're going to do, and I was thinking of like stuff that we can do for the posts on it or whatever. And it's just like, as you get more into it, the more ideas you can get. And with me having a creative mind, it's kind of being more open to things, because you see more stuff, and you like go on Pinterest or go on Instagram or whatever and just look up like forged gates or forged railings, and you just see all these like insane scroll work and all these really cool shapes and all this stuff. And it's just like, once you really get into it and know that you can do all of this stuff, like when you figure out how to do all this stuff,
Technique.
and you also have like a water jet at your disposal, you got a forge, you got all this stuff in the shop, it's like, we can do this. Why don't we just do it? So literally,
it's so. I love how custom your job now sounds really cool.
it
Sounds like you needed those stepping stones
yes,
before it to get there.
definitely. I would have not been ready for the job had I not gone through what I've gone through.
Wow.
And it's just, it's
Will you ever do a lot of architectural work on like the house that you build that's your home?
I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. I might even do railings on the house that I'm at now, because all the wood railings on our front porch are all warped. Like, they warped right away. So we might do some aluminum railings for
It'll
that.
last
Some
longer,
simple
right?
stuff.
I
Yeah,
love your
it'll
guys'
last.
front porch. So
It'll
they
last
have
forever.
like the stereotypical, like, you pull into the, because they've got
We
like,
have a raised ranch.
yeah,
Nice.
it's such a cool looking house, and like you pull in, it's like I don't want to say a stereotypical white picket fence, but in an essence it almost is, because you're like out in the country a little bit. They got neighbors, but they're not super close by.
We all have like 1.5 lots.
Yeah, and then it's
Um,
like it's right by Larson Tree Farm.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, right off of Salmonock Road. So it's like, if you going up there, it's like you go in there and you're like, oh, there's TJ's house, because you can always find TJ's truck.
Yeah, I always have a truck
I think
that's
I
very
saw you pulled
noticeable.
in. It was like a white Ford,
Yeah.
huge truck.
It's not huge, but
It
yeah.
looked big from over here, but
The black
got
truck
wheels
was
on it.
huge.
Yeah, that was a big lifted truck.
that's a nice truck though.
Yeah.
What made you go with Ford instead of
I've
the
had
Dodges?
them all, dude.
Yeah.
He's literally had, like, for a certain time, we called it Mr. First Gen.
What is your thoughts on Cummings?
There's no G at the end. That's my
Cummins.
first thought.
Are you one of those guys? Are you like obsessed with them, or are you not? Or
I've had them all, so I don't really have a preference.
Yeah, he had a black
Um,
twin to mine at one point.
Yeah, so I've had 2 first-gen Cummins. One was a 90, one was a 92. So those were both 12 valves. You can't go wrong with a 12 valve. They're indestructible. And
They really are.
you got to give them that. They might leak like a son of a bitch, but so will a 7.3. I had a 7.3. I had an auto, though. I didn't have a manual.
Yep.
Kind of wish I had a manual.
It's fun.
I had a second gen Cummins, which is a It's when they started going round body. The first gens were square bodies. And that was a 2000 and a half or 2001 and a half.
Yeah.
It was a 6-speed 24 valve.
It was
So it was
so much fun.
VP44 injection pump, whatever. It had a bunch of stuff on it, big injectors, big turbo,
Nice.
stack
It was fun.
tunes,
Yeah, you did that thing up.
smoked like a freight train or cold train. Or
I
whatever.
drove it to DeKalb for Cheyenne's graduation, and we left out of there because I brought Louis with me, and I left out of that place, and we turned out of NIU and got on. I think it was Annie Glidden, and I'm like, oh, going under the bridge there. I'm like, down to Fourth, just you couldn't see.
She
under
really
the bridge.
winds up in fourth.
Yeah, you couldn't even see. Like, I looked in the mirrors as we shot out from under the viaduct. Look in the mirror. You couldn't even tell there was a viaduct. Just
darkness.
filled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so
That
much
thing
fun.
smoked so bad.
Really?
It was funny because
Josh apologizing out the
oh
window
my
to people.
god,
So
hilarious. So we were driving back from Naperville because we always go to Lyle.
Chris has been there. I took Chris there the other day, and Chris can say that Lyle burritos are no burritos.
Oh
Yeah.
man, there were some good burritos.
The best burritos.
Hell yes.
The best burritos
The best.
around.
Do you remember Hammy two-fisting them?
Oh, we talk about this almost every time we go to Lyle now. How Hammy ate 2 burritos and tacos.
That's the guy I was telling you about. I forgot about the taco part.
insane.
He literally two-fisted the
Unhinges John.
Dude,
Keep
and
going.
I
you've
don't
seen how big the
know
burritos
how you
are.
could consume that much.
Those burritos, for those listening, are maybe a foot long.
They're literally like the size of
I'd say
like
they're
a
a
youth
foot long,
football.
and like
They're literally a
they're like-
football. They're literally a football.
two-
That is the most accurate
No,
size.
like a youth football.
It's
I'm not
literally a
kidding.
football.
Chad, it's like this big.
Yeah.
Like, for the camera.
it's
Yeah.
it's
Like,
a,
now
it's a
picture,
big burrito.
this dude that's like, I don't know, what, 6'5"? Hammy's
Yeah.
a big dude. He's the only person that's gotten in my white truck, which you've been in, and it felt like a Mini Cooper.
Wow.
Like, he just, and like, most people are like, hey, and they jump in it. Hammy just steps in it.
Yeah, he's huge.
So now
He's
picture,
really tall and he's
Is he a
wide.
bodybuilder?
he lost a lot of weight, though.
No,
No.
he's gained it back. I'm pretty sure.
No, yeah. Hammy, if
He
you're
goes on
listening,
a
I'm sorry.
diet. He goes on a diet and then he
Yeah.
loses the
Speaking
diet.
of diets, you seen Devin?
Yeah, I know.
Devin dropped like 60 pounds doing that keto thing.
Hell yeah.
Like, hell yeah. He's like,
I've heard a lot of people have
Yeah.
really good,
Good luck with
results
it.
with keto diets.
yeah, Devin's like, I hit 404. And I'm like, fuck that. I'm like,
Wow.
I don't blame you, buddy. But
Yeah, but good for him. He's doing good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
but-
doing a great job.
back to Hammy, literally two-fisting burritos. And then it was like 4 tacos too, wasn't it?
I don't know. I wasn't there for it. I just hear
That's
about it all the time.
insanity.
Yeah, big bowl.
Yeah.
Well, there was
I
no
think-
alcohol consumed in this either. It was just,
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just raw power.
No, definitely there was alcohol.
Oh no! Do you have any idea? Like the maiden voyage of my Explorer, I've got like 1,300 pounds of people in the damn thing. Everybody's shithouse. Let's go to Lyle, boys, and get some burritos. It's like 2:30 in the morning.
Hell yeah.
That place, like before
Are they open all night?
Open until
pre-COVID,
3.
yeah, pre-COVID, that place was literally only closed for like 3 hours a day
Yep.
because they would reopen at 9 a.m.
Now they close at 12:30 during the week.
Okay.
They were
They're-
open until 2 during the week before.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the best
The
burritos
best.
ever.
I'll have to check
was
it out.
definitely
I wanna-
worth every single drive out.
Yeah, we can definitely do a Lyle run one of these
Should
days.
do it right now.
But
Shit. I don't have to be at work until 7.
Honestly, I would do it. I didn't eat much of a dinner, so
I
Totally
wanted to
down.
ask too. What is the next 10 years of your life look like in your head? Have you thought about
honestly,
that?
man, I have no idea because as much as I do love welding and fabrication, I might step away from it for a little bit because it's all I've ever really done. You know,
You want to try some
obviously
other
I
stuff?
did like ironworking and stuff, and I would love to get back into that, and I've really thought about getting back into it. because you just can't beat the money and the benefits. That's the thing about the union, and I'll talk a little bit about the benefits of being non-union and the benefits of being union, because people sometimes question it. As far as like the Chicagoland area, union is kind of the way to go for trades. I mean, you really can't beat it.
It really is.
You're basically getting like $100 an hour, and it's
between
nuts.
your pay and your benefit.
Yeah,
package.
half of it's take home, and then the other half is benefits, and you can't beat the benefits. You're getting money thrown into your retirement right away almost, and you get medical. You get sometimes you get vacation depending on what union you're in. All different kinds of stuff, and you really just can't beat it for the money. Non-union, the pay really isn't there. It definitely doesn't compare. I'm making probably a quarter of what I was making in total, like total package.
Sure.
I don't really have benefits right now, and my boss isn't in the position to start doing that yet. And I have 3 more years anyways, 23, so still on my dad's insurance, so I don't really have to worry about it too much. But I am starting to worry about it because I need to be in a position where I have it by then. But the union, it's great because they're there to protect you in a way. They're there to fight for your rights in a way. Sometimes the union can really get in the way, especially for small business. The unions destroy small business. So really, like companies like D5. D5 is one of the non-union ironworking companies. Every time they're in the area for 393's jurisdiction, there's always a rat up, and they try to shut them down all the time. And
Wow.
it just, it's... Everybody's trying to make money, everybody's in a different situation. I don't really feel like unions should be, going after all the non-union
Strongholding,
companies,
yeah.
because there's plenty of money in union and there's plenty of work to go around. But, and if I need to go install a railing in Chicago and say I'm at a commercial building and a union rep comes down the road and he's like, "What the hell are you doing?" Because he sees that I'm not union. A BA will come out, and then, you just get all these people just getting in all this big fuss. And it's just like, it's pointless, dude. Just let me install my railing.
The amount of time you
and
all
go
just
home.
wasted, I would have already been in and
Yeah.
out.
And it's all just to get one of their guys a paycheck, and it's whatever. I mean, I've been in that situation where I get a 1 day's pay because somebody got caught.
No kidding.
Yeah. So, for example, the one I remember most was Hurley, which is a company. They do a lot of rebar. And they were caught unloading a truck without an iron worker there, because when there's rebar to be unloaded, and he knows, there's supposed to be an iron worker there to unload. And when nobody's there, they'll just unload themselves. And if a BA happens to be driving by, or anyone from the union, calls somebody up and is like, "Hey, there's people unloading this truck and there is no iron worker here." So they got caught, and I happened to be on the list, so I ended up getting 1 day's pay. It's $100 and something for, or 180 or $200 to do literally nothing but file some paperwork.
Yeah. And he ain't kidding. Like, especially, it's not too bad outside of Chicago. But in Chicago, there's been times...
Local one are assholes.
I've been downtown, 24,000 pounds on the bed. And, so first thing, you got to wait to even get an opening with the tower.
Yeah.
So that can take anywhere from 2 minutes to... I've sat in my cab for 6.5 hours waiting for an appointment with the tower crane. And then you have to hope that the ironwork, you have to have a laborer there to throw the chains around and to talk to the crane operator because they have to have a caller. And then you have to have an iron worker present, whether he's helping or literally just present. So if you don't have and then never mind the operator for the crane. So if you don't have all three of those perfect links, I mean, I've sat on job sites for 8 hours just sitting there. Left the barn at 6 a.m., showed up at 6:45, and pulled out of there. Literally park the truck, take the keys with me, go get lunch, come back, get back in my truck, and sit there all day. There's been also times, too, where it's been like, we don't have an iron worker. Your truck dump? Yep, dump it. Really?
Yep.
24,000 pallets wrapped up, the whole nine. Yep, don't care. If they don't want to be here, they can pick up the mess then.
Yep.
Wow.
24. We did 2 trucks one day, back to back. So it was like 48,000 pounds of freaking steel. 30 foot, 20 foot, fabricated, so bent like the standees he was talking, hairpins, staples. Yeah, literally just right off the back of the truck.
Whole 9.
Yep. Iron workers don't want to be here today. Cool. Back in there and dump it. Really. Sign here first. And it sounds like a car accident when it comes off the bed.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Especially with the pallets because they crash on top of each other on the way down. Long bar is easy. You put the bed up maybe about 3/4,
You start driving away.
go in reverse, drive, and it just comes
drops
right off
off,
the bed.
No big deal.
Yep. Or you
Yeah.
get really good at it. You'll pull forward a little bit and stop, set the brakes, hop out of the truck, grab the lumber, toss it under there because that way nobody's bitching about not being able to get forks under it. And you just keep pulling forward and
Yeah. Or, at least you had a dump. A lot of guys don't have
Yeah.
dumps and they have to unload by hand.
I've done that too. There was back to that. I mean, you talked about that job I had in Chicago last summer, where we had to load 2 tons on each side or 3 tons on each side, and you'd back all the way down the alleyway, climb. You get the door open enough to crawl out of it onto the bed, grab your 5-foot pinch point bar off your 3 tons on one side, and then you either had to scoot the other 3 all the way across, or you pull the truck out, turn it around, which is a one-way street in Chicago, and then pull it down the alleyway, bar the 3 tons off, and then back out of the alleyway because you couldn't put the bed up because there's power lines right there.
Oh my gosh. That sounds intense.
But yeah, so it's a lot of like bullshit with the union that you have to deal with. There's a lot of dumb rules and
Sure.
all that stuff. But
Yeah, there's definitely sounds like there's clearly pros and cons to both sides of it.
definitely. It really just comes down to money, really. I mean, there's a lot of benefits to small business too, and being able to take off work or hey, I'm coming in late, stuff
Yeah.
like that.
It was me and Tony this morning. I called him like, I woke up late. He's like,
Yeah.
me too, bro. Fuck it.
Literally, me and my boss. It's like I have a key to the shop now, so it's like, hey, I didn't sleep a lot last night. This is what he'll text me and be like, hey, I didn't get much sleep. I'm gonna get some. I'll be in later, or I'll be in shortly, or whatever. And like, all right, whatever. We start at 6 in West Chicago.
Nice.
Real early. Have to
That
wake
is
up at
early.
5.
Yep.
Yep, I'm getting up about 6 every day now.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Do about 6 sometimes.
Honestly, as you
6:30.
get older, it's like you feel like you're just wasting your day if you don't get up that early.
Yeah. That's like when you text me, call me at 8:30 in the morning on a Sunday. You want to go to the Cliffs? And I'm like, I probably should roll my lazy ass out of bed. All right, let's go.
Yeah. And then we just
Immediately
waste
behind
our
the
whole
wheel.
day, getting muddy.
Well, we would have been fine the last go around, but somebody had to prove a point.
What?
We can make it through there. Bloosh.
Oh.
I had stripes on my shirt from where the harness was. The whole rest of me was just mud.
It's all right. I got muddy last Sunday because I got stuck for a second time. I've only been stuck twice. Been out 4 or 5 times now.
Yeah.
Only been stuck twice now.
Remember.
I went through probably the hardest trail.
Mhm.
Got like through the first little bit and bottomed out because I was going slow.
Yeah.
You just got to blast through it sometimes.
Sure.
I'm glad I didn't get to the real hard part because that wasn't even the hardest part of the trail. Got stuck. We were there for probably like 25 minutes. And then I just started, like, I just got real tired of it. It was the end of the day. Like, it was time to leave. Like, the park was going to close. This always freaking happens, too. I swear, always something that happens at the very end of the day at this park. And we didn't have a strap. We didn't have
A winch.
a winch or anything like that. Didn't have anybody to pull us out. So we literally, like, I just got real frustrated. I'm like, fuck it. I just started rocking it back and forth. So put it in reverse and drive like 100 times. Finally got enough of a rut made that I could go forward and backward a little bit. And we had like chunks of bark. We had like logs, rocks, all this stuff. Just like tried to shove it under the tires to get traction to get up and out of there. Because I like the whole bottom of the machine was just like topped out. Like
Wow.
So you framed it.
I
out.
literally was just like spinning the tires all four. It's pretty bad. But literally it was so smooth. It just randomly it was just like whoop. Just randomly caught traction and just drove right out. I'm like, all right. 25 minutes later.
Yep.
But
Just
Wait,
remember.
but I got real muddy. I took my helmet off and I got all this mud in my hair. I was really upset. Yeah.
Well, it's the
That's
worst.
the worst feeling.
It really is because it's like, then you're like, you do that, like take your hat off and then it's like, as you like stretch the mud out of your hair and it's like yanking. It just feels like you're scalping yourself as you're ripping your hand out.
Yeah, literally. Having mud in your hair is literally the worst.
Sure. I can
And especially
imagine.
when it dries, because then it, like, when you really try to get it out,
Oh yeah.
if it's in chunks, like,
You just wait.
good
you
luck.
just
you just
go home.
re-wet it.
Right.
Yeah. Go
Yeah.
home, get in the shower, clean the tub because
Turn
otherwise.
yourself into clay.
Yeah, exactly.
Take the pressure washer and
Yeah.
blast your head off.
So yeah, we're getting up there now in time. And before I finish up here, I want to ask all the guests if there's one piece of advice you could leave for everyone who's listening. What's that one piece of advice?
Well, since we were mostly talking about metalworking and welding and stuff, I might as well say something about that. For anybody that's trying to get into it and that is learning or is in school or whatever, for one, it's not always the best to go to a college or a trade school. Sometimes it's best just to start working. Just find a job, start from the bottom and work your way up, learn everything, and nothing is beneath you as far as that goes. And be patient, take your time. Don't get too frustrated from the beginning because you're not doing so well. It took me 7 years to get to where I'm at. And it's crazy to think that it's been that long, but it really has. And I've come such a long way. Like, if I could see the welds that I laid out before, like,
7
I'd
years
be like,
ago.
wow.
Well, it doesn't feel like
'Cause
that long
it
ago. We were
is
building those stacks for your
it's
truck.
such an instinct to me now. Like, I'd sit there and just like weld one-handed overhead like it's nothing, dude. It's like it literally is
That's
like
badass.
it's so
You've
easy
mastered.
to it
You've
comes so
started
easy
to
to me now.
master it.
And no, I'm definitely not mastered.
That's one of those
there's
trades
always
that you
more to
don't
learn
master.
too.
Yeah.
Like I've said multiple times, it is endless.
Wow.
Yeah,
you
you'll
never
stop
ever
learning.
stop learning.
Yeah,
Ever.
you'll never get bored in that craft.
No, I
You-
mean
you can always find
no.
something.
So just be ambitious about learning stuff too. It's like don't settle, like always try to learn more. Always try to push yourself to be better and criticize yourself, because the best way to learn welding, I feel like nobody can come up to you and be like, do this, and then you just do it. No, welding is its own thing.
It's like it's literally like handwriting.
you have to learn it on your own.
Right.
And that's why it's like, I don't believe in paying to go to a college to learn welding, because half the people that come out of college still don't know what the hell they're doing when they're done, and they wasted all that money. Go out there and make money while you learn.
Yeah.
It's
No, it's
Flip
true,
that on
though.
its
It
head.
literally
No,
is true.
seriously.
Yeah.
and that's the best way to do it. I mean,
That's wise.
Well, like
honestly,
we talked about with getting, even like a CDL. Best thing to do is just find somebody that's willing to give you a truck. Go get your permit.
just go do it.
Go do it.
And don't hold back. If you want to do it, if you want to get into metalworking, don't just look for jobs in the area. Start at like a manufacturing shop maybe, or the best place to go to learn all different kinds of stuff is definitely like a custom fab shop or whatever like that. And you might start out doing bullshit work, but stick with it, and you just always ask questions.
Yeah.
Sure.
The one thing I have to build on with that would definitely be, to be upfront and to be very honest with people.
Yeah.
If you're going into a custom fab shop looking for a job, don't walk in there and be like, well, I got kind of a general. If you know nothing, say you know nothing,
Yeah.
but you're willing to learn.
Yeah,
walk
because
in
then you
there
just
and-
look like an idiot after
exactly.
after you show them that you know absolutely nothing.
They'll be able to tell, I guarantee.
Yeah.
and-
Oh yeah, 100%. We
Yeah.
have an apprentice in our shop right now.
How is that?
She's doing pretty good. She's learning, but I think it's kind of hitting her kind of hard that she doesn't know as much as she probably thought. And the problem is because when you're not given the right direction, like obviously you have to learn on your own with welding, but you also have to be put in the right direction. Somebody has to guide your hand a little
You
bit.
still need a sensei.
Yeah, and like for us, for sure, it was definitely Mr. Hipple. He put us
Definitely.
in that right direction, and he said the right words. And I wish I could pull them off the top of my head, like all the right things that he said to put us in
Yeah.
that right direction.
Right.
And
Well, I mean, the biggest thing that, and we talked about in our episode of the podcast was, how he sat there in the analogy of, I'm an instructor, not a teacher. I can't teach you how to weld. I can show you, this is how I do it. This is how it works for me. Maybe try it this way, try it your own way. And that was like
Yeah.
how I learned MIG welding was from Chad Worley,
yeah,
doing it forehand instead of backhand.
yeah, you could do it both ways, but yeah,
Oh, I know, but that's just how I learned, and that's what always worked best for me.
Yeah.
And
it's fair.
that was the other thing. Like I said, is just always keep an open mind to, like, if somebody gives you criticism on something, like, hey,
Yeah. That's too cold, or
yeah,
that's
a
too
little
fast, or
exactly.
just know what a good weld is supposed to look like. Know what a bad weld looks like. Know how to diagnose what's going wrong. If you know that kind of stuff, that's the kind of stuff that you can be a bookworm about. Know what you're looking at. And that's where you could criticize yourself. That's where you could just start practicing welding. And that's another thing too. Weld. If
Yeah,
you want
it's
to
all
learn, if
practice.
you want to know how to weld,
Do it.
fucking weld.
There you go.
Yeah,
just
he would
start welding and
I mean,
don't
we would
stop.
sit there and pad plate.
Yeah. Just,
I mean, we'd start off with a piece of 3/8 plate, and it'd be 1.5 inches by the time we're done.
yeah,
Because you
you
just this
keep,
way,
keep
and
running
like mowing
passes.
grass.
Just keep running passes. Ugh.
There we go, folks. And on that note, I want to thank you so much for joining us, TJ. It's been a pleasure having you on.
For sure.
And yeah, folks, have a great week. Have a happy weekend. Keep working hard. We enjoy you listening. Have a great day.